Hello and welcome to our third talk today. I'm here with Roland from the Netherlands, right? And he's going to talk about improving the transformation results in corporate organizations with adaptivity that fits. And with that, I'm going to hand over to you, Roland.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So we've got 45 minutes, I guess, to talk about agile transformation. So welcome everybody. So the weather report from Holland is it's raining and it's cold. So we're going to be talking about something that we've rebaptized over time into organizational topologies. So it's adaptivity that fits your company. So how adaptive can you become, or do you want to become? And we've created this talk and the content of this talk together. So that's me with Alexei Krivitsky. Alexei unfortunately couldn't make it today, so I'm going to be doing this on my own. But I think you know, we'll be okay. Now, I guess I don't see any faces, I don't see any people, so I'm just talking to myself actually. But I guess that you guys are in some kind of agile transformation. Oh, there's two people there. Hey, hi guys. So just think for a minute. If you're connected in a company to some kind of agile transformation program or an agile transformation, just ask yourself, well, where are you now? Are you just getting started, preparing to do an agile transformation, or maybe you're really in the middle of it and everything is happening and it's going wild and crazy and everybody's got that buzz of, yeah, we're going agile. Or maybe it's already the third time you're doing a transformation, not sure. Maybe it's over already, you ended. You're finalizing the last bits, tidying up things, and it's over. So, I can't ask you to raise hands because I don't see the hands. But I don't know where you are, but I guess you know, right? Transformations are journeys. They are actually never-ending journeys. So even if you think that your agile transformation is over, you probably, because, well, you'll run into the next step later on. We think it's a continuous movement towards some kind of perfection state. And although maybe you're adopting a framework right now, and you might think, oh, wait a minute, we're almost done adopting this framework, and then we can move on. Well, I can assure you, if you didn't know that already, it's a journey. You will never stop changing from now on, hopefully. And the reason for that, of course, is that we have introduced continuous improvement in our organizations once that we've moved into an agile transformation. Now, if it's a journey towards perfection, Alexei and I were asking ourselves, well, what kind of perfection is that? What are our companies looking for? Yeah, companies are trying to be agile, right? But what is perfection? So, if I were to be the CEO of a big company, and I would want to be the fastest, most versatile, agile company in the world, I think my perfection would be that if I would get an idea under the shower in the morning to launch a new product, that I could go into the office and inform everybody about this new product, and then I would have this new product in 2 weeks from now, or at least less than a month. It would be in the market. And so the ability to have everybody working on some kind of idea immediately, whenever I wanted, at no extra cost, that would be very adaptive, okay? So I just click my fingers and I can answer the questions of the regulators and send them the reports they want, because I can get my organization or a part of my organization to support that idea immediately. To us, that's a perfection vision of the most adaptive way of having, running a business. Now we're focusing on product development organizations, okay? So software development or product development in general. All right, so now that we've set the baseline for this talk to agree that if you're implementing Agile or if you're doing Scrum with teams in a product development company, then you probably do this because you want to be adaptive. And we've set adaptivity, the perfection goal that we try to reach, as just being able to switch ideas anytime we want at no extra cost. All right. Okay, well, this is Alexei, not here. This is me wearing black instead of green today, and that's the beer. So the beer is there because we spend a lot of time talking together about this subject of change in organizations. We are both consultants, and we work in a lot of organizations. We go there and we see the people working there, and actually we see them suffer. I don't know if you experience that too, but everybody in the beginning, when they first get in touch with Agile or work in a Scrum team, they're kind of happy. They like it. It's new, asks you to use common sense. And then after a while, especially when things are big, Agile isn't so nice anymore. It's frustrating in many ways. And that's, I think, in general, there's this idea that when you do Agile at scale, you need to implement a framework. And then we start implementing a framework. We put the nuts and bolts together. Maybe there's a consultancy firm that helps us. Companies choose a framework from the wide variety of frameworks available. And then, let's just try to fix it. And let's try to be agile at scale. When we are asked as consultants to go to companies, if we have the opportunity to talk to leaders of companies, we try to avoid talking about frameworks. We know that there are frameworks, and we know maybe that people are considering to choose one or the other framework. But what's more important is to think about the underlying questions. Okay. So what is the goal? What is the goal? What are you trying to achieve? Why do you want to implement Agile? Because the other companies got it? Or what is it? What problem are you trying to fix, basically? Okay. That's an important question. So what is your goal? And what we also need to know, what we'd like to talk about, is where are you now? Right? So if you know that you have a certain goal you want to achieve, and that might be perfect adaptivity, by the way, or it might not be, but you have a certain goal that you want to achieve. Where are you now? Well, if you know those two things, then you might also consider a path to go there, right? To reach that goal. So then you've got options, you've got choices to make. All right. And as we were drinking beers, we kind of agreed that having those ingredients, helps you to navigate all these choices that you need to make. Because we're swamped with frameworks. But if you know the goal and the current position that you're in, then you can start to make choices instead of, going for the most colorful framework and try to implement it, putting checks and boxes. Actually, what we've seen in talking to companies is that people tend to over-focus on implementing the framework right. Okay? And then people tend to forget the benefits, the real goals that we're trying to reach. Putting checks and boxes for having everybody doing Scrum is not necessarily giving you a more agile or more adaptive organization. Okay? So focusing too much on the framework, that will distract you from reaching your goal. Okay. Here we are. Now, this looks like ingredients of a map. Because if I go on a holiday, and I know where I am now, I'm at home, and I know that I want to go to some sunny beach or wherever, I can use a map to navigate to get there. And that's the idea that we had for developing our org topologies, as we call it, organizational topologies. That is that we looked at all these organizations that implemented frameworks, and we tried to, for being agile at scale, for being adaptive, and we're trying to understand what it is exactly is happening in those companies, and why is one company different from another. And we abstracted it into a series of archetypes, organizational archetypes. And then we started to see patterns emerge. We were looking at these different archetypes, and we said, well, this looks like that, but it's a little bit different. And we studied it thoroughly. And we were able to map those archetypes on a map, right? the adaptivity map. We've rewritten that map multiple times.
This is ecom.
Oh, wait a minute.
Ecom.
We've rewritten this map multiple times, by the way. And I want to introduce you to the first archetype that you probably will recognize, so that you get a better idea of what an organizational archetype is. I'm going to show a little movie, just switching back and starting it right now. So this is the first archetype that we want to introduce.
This is ecom. Ecom is an e-commerce company that sells electronics and other home products online. They have a website and many other IT applications to support their business processes. Until now, ecom has never seen software development as their core business. That's why they have never prioritized investing in their software development systems. They do things the old-fashioned way. The business is separated from IT, and IT developers are grouped in departments, which are siloed functional groups. When there is a need to get something changed on the website or in one of the software systems, a project is launched. And how do they do it? Well, a project manager is assigned to collect requirements, break them down into subsystems, analyze the skills required for the project, and then claim resources. Yes, that's how they tend to call people with certain skills. Resources. These resources will be given a predefined set of tasks to contribute to the project. The project managers are responsible for coordinating the timelines, possible changes in requirements, dependencies, and the integrations of the tasks into a working feature. There's not just one or two projects going on at the same time. In fact, there are too many projects, and every one of them potentially affects the others. That's because they rely on the same pool of resources. People.
Okay. So that's the idea of an archetype, of an organizational design. There are many work lists, backlogs, they're individual, like every person has a list of work to do. And there's a lot of coordination going on and work being routed to people to make sure that there is some kind of value delivered. Now you can ask yourself, how adaptive is this organizational design, right? Remember the CEO getting up in the morning, wanting everybody to work on a certain idea. That's going to take a lot of effort to make all these people understand what needs to happen and then move into a certain direction. There's decomposition happening, right, at a higher level, where project manager is, taking an idea apart and assigning tasks to people, to the resources. This is not very agile, okay? But sometimes you see this, and then, this kind of setup is called agile, and then the project manager is called the product owner. It happens. But it's not very adaptive. So you cannot easily change the direction of the whole company or bigger parts of the company to go into a certain direction. As you can see, we've plotted this archetype in the left bottom corner, right? And it says A1. Now, let's move on and see what happens in the next archetype, right? So A1 is the first archetype with project managers. Mainly are driven by resource utilization. Okay, they want to optimize the resources that they have. And if we move upward a little bit on a horizontal axis, of which I'm going to explain later on what it exactly is, let's see what happens. A2.
At a certain point in time, the organization was experiencing market pressure to build a mobile app. Building a mobile app was new to ecom. They had no experience and no mobile app development resources. So the usual method of upfront analysis and then puzzling together the required skills did not work. They also wanted to try that Agile and Scrum stuff, but never had the guts to do it. So now this seemed a perfect opportunity to try something new. They decided to form a dedicated team to work on the mobile app, the mobile team. And it worked. The mobile team was immediately able to demonstrate independence and high development speed. Everybody was impressed. But as time passed, blocking technical dependencies emerged, and the initial speed got lost. This was because the app needed some deep changes in the legacy core software systems, and the mobile team was missing the right skills and permissions to make those changes. The project managers no longer needed to manage resources for the mobile project. but instead they had to deal with the dependencies that were blocking the mobile team. Still, despite the additional problems the mobile team was causing, the mobile app was a big success. It was created faster, with more focus on user features, thus delivering the outcomes as business expected. The old organization was still there, doing the core work using the project approach, but it was slowly transforming towards dedicated teams. Over time, more teams were created, such as the product catalog team, the payments team, and so forth.
I'm sure you've seen this kind of setup as well. You know, the successful mobile team.
At a certain point in time, the organization...
The successful mobile team. You know, it's already a little bit more adaptive, at least as long as you want to do mobile stuff. And it causes new problems, right? This dependency management, the technical dependencies in the old core systems, they need to be managed. So what exactly happens when now that we've described those two archetypes, what happens is that there is a line between those two archetypes. That's interesting. So something happened in the organization to move from A1 to A2, which is a shift in the mental model, in the understanding of the people that we needed dedicated teams to work on something, on a common goal, to make something happen. And that's a good thing, that people understand, and well, that it's a good thing, but it's a difficult thing that they need to understand, because it's a radical change in the organization to create teams that have mandate and that are, you know, cross-functional. It's quite different from a project setup. Now, the optimization goal, why do we do this so easily, creating a mobile team? That's because it's actually avoiding to solve the real problems in the organization. We're adding something that is flexible on top of a not so flexible organization. And it's very well fit for purpose. You know, it works brilliantly. So we would say that this kind of organizational design works very well to avoid conflicts of solving deeply rooted problems in the organization, and it gives you quick wins. Okay. Now, I was a little bit too early just now talking about those lines between the boxes. So we have the archetype A1, we have the archetype A2 with a mobile team, and there's a line in between. And each line of our map means deeper change in the organization and some painful things that need to change in the organization. It's a paradigm shift. So imagine that you're a company and you're doing projects, and you see all this project management going on, and the number of projects is growing and growing and growing, and you're losing control. Then it might make sense to maybe consider to create dedicated teams. Right? That's a paradigm shift. To be working on one subject, focus together with friends or teammates in a cross-functional team. Okay. Now, once you've understood A1 to A2, then we can start to see what is actually the pattern happening here. The teams that are created are developing in Scrum terms. They have more capabilities in the team, but not everything. Right? Remember that there are still core systems, the old core systems that they're depending on. If they need something to change in the customer detail database, right, then you know the core system needs to change. So there's a technical dependency. But we could create more adaptivity if we would enable those teams to have a larger, Scrum terms, definition of done. Right? If they would have more capabilities in the team, they would become faster, more adaptive. So the horizontal line, the horizontal axis is about the fluency of a team to be able to deliver on a single customer feature, or how far stretches the definition of done. Now that we've seen A2, and now that we know what's on the horizontal line, you can probably guess what's going to happen in A3, right? Let's have a look.
Ecom was very successful with their approach of dedicated teams. They were growing by creating more and more teams and removing dependencies from the old organization. The new organization now had dozens of teams. Each team was focusing on its own customer feature. In Scrum terms, each team had its own backlog, product owner, and its own Scrum.
Wow. Now we're talking. We've got, you know, the shopping basket team, and we got the mobile team. We got all kinds of teams, and just imagine if they would be able to deliver done, so they can get an idea and they can create anything you want on a mobile application. Wow. And they just ship it to the customer. So that gives you a lot of speed and flexibility. And yeah, that's A3. So does that mean that we can't move any further? Right? Is this perfect adaptivity? Is this perfect adaptivity? You know, a couple of teams, or maybe the majority of teams, would be able to have a perfect definition of done. They have a perfect feature delivery flow. We need to make teams end-to-end, right? Just think about it, what it means. It means we have to get permissions to deploy stuff or create server instances or whatever we need to do, or change things in the back-end systems. We need to do that to be able to become really end-to-end on those features. And that's a very difficult, hard thing to do. And that's why many companies never achieve to make their teams end-to-end. It means you would have to have business development in one team doing any kind of work for that channel, if you want to do it, for that functionality, if you want to, you could call it that way. So this is how we draw it in the adaptivity map. We've got the A1, A2, and A3 archetypes. And as you can see, there are in A1 below some pictograms to explain what it means. A1 mean archetype, they have typically one backlog per person or group of persons, individuals doing the same kind of work, same kind of technology. And we could call that archetype functional work with external orchestration, the project manager routing work in tasks. If you get a little bit better at delivering at one single customer feature, you have a dedicated team, cross-functional, working on, let's say, the mobile app, but they cannot do everything needed in like stuff in the core system. So they have blocking dependencies that need to be managed. Now, if you would make them perfectly end-to-end and you would optimize for perfect feature delivery, then there would be one product backlog for that team, right, delivering on that feature. Okay, so now we're done. No, we're not done. Okay, we're not fully adaptive. There's still stuff missing. And the thing that is missing is that what if we would want to have a customer journey to be developed, right? Where there is shopping basket and historic data to be displayed, then we would need all kinds of teams that are working as a silo actually to work together. Because once your team is perfect and you have your backlog and your PO and you can deliver end-to-end, for teams it's actually a perfect situation. But not if you really want to deliver value at a business level.
The teams were improving separately from each other, and they all had different goals. After a while, fences started to grow between the teams. But from the point of view of the developers, Scrum Masters and product owners, the change was very good for their team. Now they could actually deliver the features that were requested through their team backlogs. At a certain point in time, a stakeholder was charged to improve customer retention. He had lots of ideas for new requirements. For instance, when an existing customer would search the product catalog, he wanted to have the previous purchases to be displayed so that the customer could easily reorder. Unfortunately, there was no single team responsible for purchase history, product catalog, and customer data. He found out, actually, that these kind of requirements involved the majority of the teams. It cut through all team backlogs because of logical dependencies. Although ecom had become much faster and efficient in delivering features, they did not reach a high state of agile maturity yet, because the current state could not solve their new business challenges, like customer retention requirements. To address this, the most obvious option probably was to fall back to the proven approach of creating a customer retention project or program. Another option would be to solve the underlying root cause by reconsidering the organizational design and eliminate the newly discovered logical dependencies.
Yeah. So how do we do that? Well, there's a second axis, the vertical axis. That's why it's a map, right? You can move horizontally. We just discussed that. Or you can also move vertically. And the vertical axis is about reaching that level of being able to, to work on business objectives, on the level of customer journeys. And instead of having a backlog per team, right, we would see that there is more knowledge in each team of a broader domain scope. There would be areas probably of focus, maybe acquisition area or the customer retention area, or all kinds of areas, employee journey areas. And if you would then even go further up towards full adaptivity, then the ultimate goal, the ultimate thing you would want to have is one product backlog for everybody in the company. Well, one product backlog, a whole product understanding. So every employee, every team member understands the whole product and can work on the whole product. But you can feel this is a very difficult thing to attain. Now, let's have a look at what happens if we would move from A3, where we have all these siloed teams working and maybe delivering end-to-end on, for instance, the mobile app or the purchase functionality. What if we would move up into having areas? Because that could solve, if we'd have a customer retention area, that could potentially then solve the problem that we have with the stakeholder. Let's have a look what happens.
Ecom decided to address the root causes and rigorously reduce the dependencies between teams. To do this, they created a new organizational unit called the Customer Retention Area, containing all teams needed to deliver customer retention value. Our stakeholder was promoted to become the one and only customer retention product owner, managing a single customer retention product backlog for the complete customer journey. In fact, other areas were created in the same way to deliver value for other journeys, like customer acquisition, for example. All customer retention teams now work on a common shared goal. They pull work from their shared product backlog into their team sprint backlogs, delivering integrated customer value together, each sprint. This solution offers a high level of adaptivity. To change direction, all it takes is the PO to change the order of the items on his area product backlog.
Isn't that great? Isn't that difficult? Yes, it is. It's very difficult. It would mean that the idea is a Scrum team has a product owner, and now we need all these teams to collaborate together on one single product backlog. They would only pull work into their own sprint backlogs. Okay, so that's the key here. We can prioritize work at the level of the customer journeys, and we would have only one product backlog for such a whole area, and there could be multiple teams, like maybe up to 8 or 9 teams working from one single product backlog. But you can see, if it would be possible to do this in reality, then it makes you highly adaptive, because your teams can deliver end-to-end on anything in that area related to that customer journey. So B3 optimizes for delivering on customer experience and to really drive for business goals. Yeah, here we are. Okay. But not so perfect is maybe more realistic. Okay, so maybe, because it's very hard work to try to make one product backlog for a large group of people, maybe B2 is more realistic, which would mean that teams have an imperfect definition of done. They cannot deliver end-to-end, but they do work on one centralized product backlog. They work on a user journey with one product owner, which gives you good adaptivity, but there are some technical dependencies. Maybe they cannot integrate with old systems, or they cannot change stuff in old systems yet.
Another complication is that the idea of having a single product backlog for multiple teams managed by one single product owner is a challenge for many organizations. In most cases, each Scrum team will have their own team-level product owner and a team-level product backlog. This creates conflicts of interest, drives local optimization, fragmented understanding of value, and causes sequential work, also known as waterfall. This makes it more difficult to deliver value at customer journey level. All of this brings layers of added overhead to manage the self-inflicted complexity. It brings a lot of additional coordination work for managers, and to address this, many choose to implement frameworks to make their lives a little safer. Well, all in all, this setup impacts the company's ability to change direction fast, hence it lowers adaptivity.
Yeah, so B2, what we see in reality when people think they're maybe in B2, that they only have these technical dependencies because teams cannot all deliver done. And they have a central backlog with ideas for a whole value area or a value stream or value domain or whatever it might be called. Then it should be a pretty flexible setup. But what we see in reality in many cases is that, well, there are still logical dependencies as well, because actually teams still have team backlogs, not just one area backlog. They didn't pull through the whole shift of really getting rid of those team backlogs. And that's why we need coordination again. And that's where, well, frameworks come in to help us to support that kind of structure. But it's an expensive structure and it's not very highly adaptive. Because if you want to change something, you still need to do a lot of coordination to get these team backlogs filled. So actually, you're not in B2 if you still don't have, if you still have team backlogs, you're actually in A2. Okay, and that's not highly adaptive. And in some cases, consultancy companies try to sell the idea that companies are in B2 or even maybe in B3, but in reality, the implementation boils down to being in A2, which is a sad thing. Okay, it's really a sad thing. But that's just how it goes, right? Then you're having this modern terminology. We're having backlogs, and we're doing events, big PI events or whatever we do, Scrum of Scrums, and then everything works fine. Well, everything does not work fine. It's not a highly adaptive model. We're kind of fooling ourselves. We're thinking we're very agile, and well, we've created this map with all the archetypes to try to get rid of the confusion. And to make very transparent where we really are with our implementation, looking at these two axes that we've created. Is there really a consolidated product backlog where teams can pull work from? And do they really understand all the work on that domain? Do they? Or do they still have team backlogs? Well, this gives you an indication of where you are and how much can they do if you look at delivering completely done in the hands of the customer. Now, if we move up, there's still one archetype that we've seen and that exists, which is C3, and it's very rare, it's very hard, it's very difficult, but it's there. It's C3, and that's a pretty nice setup. Remember, there would be one product backlog for the whole company, no team product backlogs, and the teams can all pull work from that company backlog, and that's a very adaptive organization. There's only one product backlog. So if the CEO decides he wants to do something, or anyone, the product owner, of the company, which in many cases is the CEO, then that would be possible because all the teams can just pull the work and build it and integrate within one sprint. And it's not only a very highly adaptive organization, it's also a very nice organizational design because it doesn't have a lot of coordination roles, because the coordination is done by the people in the teams themselves. And they share a common goal. So that's C3. Optimizing for value delivery on the whole product. Okay? Not just on a part, not just on an element, but on business objectives. Okay. So to move from A to B to C, we see very hard paradigm shifts. If you come from an organization that just starts with, or comes from projects and you're moving up to consolidate into areas of value, then that will be scaling. And the funny thing is, we tend to call it descaling if you move up to having only one product backlog for the whole company. Just imagine what kind of simplification this brings, but imagine how difficult it is. Okay. So we've got all these archetypes that we've discovered, and there's some boxes empty because we just don't see it happen. We don't see that these companies exist, or we don't see any value in having a B1 kind of or C1 kind of organization. And we're still discovering new archetypes. Somebody asked us, like, yeah, but where are component teams? Well, there must be somewhere in A1, A2, and you know, we still need to figure that out. So any input is welcome to help us to develop this map even further. As you can see in this picture, we've drawn the perfection state, the highest level of adaptivity, of which we don't know yet what it is, right? We now know what C3 is, but maybe there's more if we continue to grow. All right, so it's time for some conclusions. Let's all agree that implementing an agile framework is not a goal, right? It's just a means to an end. And we shouldn't focus too much on the framework. We should focus on the problems that we're trying to fix and the goals that we're trying to achieve. If we understand we need to have focus for our transformational goals and our path towards some kind of perfection, then we need to consider two axes, at least two axes, right? The team dynamics, how well can a team deliver done, the fluency at team level, delivering on a single feature, and the product level. How broad is their understanding of the whole product? Because that's that level that we can reach there will make us very, very adaptive or not so adaptive. We also need to understand that progressing from one archetype to another, and it doesn't matter in which direction you go, right? But if you move from one box to another, then we need to crack some hard nuts. Okay, it's hard. And that's why a lot of companies stick to a format they already have, to an organizational design they already have, and they don't move. Now, these paradigm shifts, they require structural changes. So we really need to restructure the organization, because we see and we know that culture follows structure. If you put down a structure for people to work in, a culture will emerge. It's a complex adaptive system. Culture will emerge. So changing the structure, moving from one archetype to another will also change your culture. Cool. And yeah, this is the map, and you can download it for free. It's on orgtopologies.com. I would recommend you to just have another look at it. Read some stuff that we've put on the website. There's also some videos, some things you can, so you can chew it in a little bit more, because I've been pretty fast and maybe a little bit scattered in what I was saying. So it's good to read a little bit more about this. And our ultimate goal would be that if you understand and you see the value of this map, to move away from the frameworks, and to be able to assess your current adaptivity and talk about this with your peers in your companies. Then I think we are achieving our goal to help companies to lower the suffering that we have in working with all these frameworks that really don't work too well, and we don't understand how to move away from them. Well, this map might help you to understand a little bit more what you need to do and what you're avoiding to do maybe in your organization, and then you know why you're stuck. I sincerely hope, and Alexei hopes it too, I know he does, that this will give a common language to talk about. So you can talk to your superiors And everybody understands that we thought that we were in B2, but actually we're not. We're in A2 or in A1. And I hope these concepts will start to make sense. You know, wow, what kind of company is this? It's an A1 company with some A2 elements. Right, that would be cool. So common language is a nice thing to have. If we could learn from the map, then that would be cool. Okay, so my time's almost up. That's it. orgtopologies.com. If you have any questions, we still have a couple of minutes here. I will stick around for a little bit, and fire away. Just ask. Oh, maybe is there anyone who wants to comment, ask a question, or maybe inform me about an archetype that they've seen that we've missed? Shoot.
Roland, thank you for the presentation. Where can we find this video? This video is amazing in your presentation.
Oh, is this Klaus speaking? Hello, Klaus.
No, Michael. Michael is speaking.
Okay. Oh, hello. You can go to orgtopologies.com. Yeah, you can download the videos.
Oh, great. I found it already.
And there's a nice PDF as well with a explanation. And we also try to focus a little bit on different groups that we need to address. So we want to do a little bit more of an executive primer for leaders of companies. We want to do more for agile coaches to start good dialogues and good conversations. But there's more to come in the future, but there's already something there, and I hope you find it useful.
Definitely, it's exactly the thing which we are working currently at the moment in our company. So thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah. All right. Anyone else who's got some questions or suggestions?
We have one question in our room, Roland. Would you like to? Can you hear it? Otherwise, I will just repeat this question for you.
Yeah, repeat it because it sounds very muffly in the back.
That's just me. Just thank you very much for the presentation. It was very worthwhile and very entertaining.
So it was not really a question, it was just an appraisal for you. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Okay.
Also, thank you very much from my side. If there is nothing left, or is there any question from this side of the room?
How much of this is from ING? Because I don't know if you can hear me.
Did you get the question, or should I repeat?
No. Can you repeat?
How much of this concept do you have from ING transformation story? Because for me, much is familiar from ING. I have also worked out on transformation.
Oh, that's interesting, because I've been at ING for about I don't know, half a year or a year, a pretty long time ago, when we were doing their LS adoption for business banking. And I must quite honestly say that I really don't know the story that you're referring to.
Not the shift in paradigm, etc., but the tribe model, of course, and the dependencies and all of these squad models.
But we've experienced it at ING for sure, but I don't know if there's any write-up there. But you could I don't know, managing dependencies is key, right? But not try to. What happens if you implement a framework like SAFe, for instance? You will institutionalize your dependency management. You adding complexity in your organization. That's probably something on top of A2. And maybe a good implementation of SAFe would be B2. But then you will put structures in place like release train engineers and whatever. They will coordinate the mess and it will stay there. Okay? And that's the thing that we've learned at ING. We came from that situation, and we removed all those logical and technical dependencies, and we were using a large-scale Scrum, so less, as a model to see if that would work better. We didn't invent. We're not claiming that we've invented that. We're the first ones to say, hey, look at your dependencies. I think we're the first ones to say, hey, there are organizational archetypes. and the fundamental problems that need to be solved to move towards higher adaptivity, right? That's the thing that we're adding to the equation, that we bring clarity to what's there already. But thanks for reminding me of the ING story. I will look it up and see how we can link and match what we've done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again, Roland.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. You can subscribe to the newsletter or just subscribe and leave your name at Orthopologies. We do a lot of updates and a lot of new material. So if you want to stay up to date, then don't hesitate. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day. If there's no more questions, then have a good day.
We will actually continue after a short break and have another talk here. So Roland,
Okay.
it was nice to meet you.
All right. Thank you very much for
Bye-bye.
having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.